Peek my mic. As is tradition. Peeking my microphone. Let's go ahead and turn that down a little bit. Okay. It's looking pretty good. I considered calling this stream Dylan is in substitute teacher mode. Where like he just throws on a, substitute teachers. How they come in to the class and they're just like, yeah, I have a movie. We're going to watch the movie. And then they just turn on the movie and then they like look at their phone for the class. First things first though, I'm going to mute Discord. Also, did anybody else's Discord notification pings change? Mine's now like this weird, like somebody's hitting a tin can with a stick. It used to be like bloop, but now it's like ka-ching. It's so terrible. I hate it. I thought it was like some other thing. Like I thought I had accidentally signed up for some weird new email system or something. I see Rinzai is here. Cool. I see Rinzai is here. I wondered if Rinzai... Oops. Sorry. I'm wondering if Rinzai just turned the stream on but then fell asleep. He's been having a hard go of things lately, from what I understand. From what I've been able to glean. But if I do get some confirmation that Rinzai is here today, then we will definitely play the game. What? I muted Discord. Why is it making that sound still? Because there's 2 instances of Discord running somehow. But if I get some confirmation on that, then we'll definitely stream the game. I forget the name of it. And then... Oh, but the main topic of discussion today, like I said, Dylan is in substitute mode, substitute teacher mode. So we're gonna watch some of the one of my favorite GDC talks ever, and I've started thinking about what exactly this channel is, and like where I can go with it. And I've been watching a lot of streams, and I've been watching a lot of the creators that I really like. And one of the things I've noticed is that it seems like there's probably more than this. My wife's television program is coming through. She's a sweetheart for putting in headphones while I stream. She can't hear me though. What was I going to say? Oh, so as I've been watching more and more streamers and kind of more intently watching them, right? Because I passively consume... Oh, hello there, Mr. Teelings. I've been passively consuming Twitch for years and years and years, right? And I have no idea. And I didn't really think very critically about what Twitch is. And as I've gone more and more into the Twitch world and started paying attention to other content creators, I've noticed that there's like a couple different versions of what Twitch is, right? There's the kind of you're watching someone who's better at something that you want to be good at streams, right? So like I used to watch a lot of Magic streams because I wanted to get better at Magic, and watching better players play Magic is a good way to understand how to get better at Magic. Same goes for fighting games, right? For example, watching players who are better at fighting games than me is a good way to learn how to play fighting games. I would assume that this goes for basically everything, right? Watching like a really good Valorant player or Dota 2 or League of Legends or, whatever. Insert competitive game here, right? And it seems like competitive gaming streams are very often like people who they want to get better at something, and so they watch somebody to get better at it. And then you have like variety streaming type stuff where you just kind of like the person's personality, right? And I think a lot of streamers, they start off doing something like competitive gaming, and then they move into variety, or it just doesn't seem like there's that many people who are like, I'm going to go on my personality alone. Right? I'm going to go on my personality alone right from the get-go. Which I think is kind of interesting, because back when I was podcasting, I also noticed that there was like distinct categories for podcasts, right? There were like information, there were subject podcasts, and there were personality podcasts. And subject podcasts were very much focused on like, I want to know more about marketing, right? And so they Google best marketing podcasts, and the list comes up, and it's a bunch of people who the only thing that they talk about is marketing, and they give you some insight into how marketing works, right? And then there's the subject podcast, and that's more like the classic, Joe Rogan type podcast, where the only thing that really draws you to that podcast is that you like to listen to Joe Rogan talk about things. And so that's something that has been on my mind, and I've found kind of interesting in regards to this channel, because I've been trying to figure out what exactly Vonda Gaming is, and what this Twitch channel is, and what I can do with it. Right? Like because Twitch, for the most part, is considered to be a game streaming platform, although now not so much, right? Like every time I get on, somebody's like playing a guitar and singing, and I'm like, oh, and I have no interest in that, but some people do, and that's fine. People are drawing on stream. People are, making visual art on stream. Like drawing and visual art are the same thing. I don't know why I said that twice. People are making music on stream. People are, doing a podcast on stream. People are doing sports shows on stream now, where they, like what used to be talk radio is now talk Twitch kind of thing. Like, so I think that's all kind of interesting, but I don't know what WJG is, because I haven't really seen anything else like it. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I'll be there shortly. Okay, cool. Some people do game dev. Yeah, some people do game dev on stream. I've done game dev on stream before. I've written my book on stream before. I've done a lot of stuff like that, and I'm not sure where the best way to go with this channel is, because in the way that that like my conception of this channel is that it's something like, what up, dog? What up, Sasquatch? On Call IT is in the house. The conception of WJG it came from Neophyte Studios, right? And Neophyte Studios was kind of the brainchild of a couple different people at SIU, thinking that if a university had lent its credence to a Twitch stream and it was focused on narrative and games, what would happen? And I think the answer was a lot. So long as you have a teacher, so long as you have a professor there. Because what I noticed was that all of the things that we did with Pinkney were vastly, vastly more successful than the things that we did without him. You are here for the IT on-call dope, because I'm sure something's going to break. But doing something with Pinkney yielded better results almost always. And I think it's because he had clout, right? He was the reason why you would watch a stream. He was both the personality and the clout, right? And so with WJG, I don't really quite have that. Not to the degree that Pinkney does. Pinkney has like very obvious clout. He's old. It's also weird to just see an older person on Twitch, I would say. So that obviously grabs eyes. He worked for a university, and we made sure to say that as often as we possibly could. And you just listening to him talk, you knew that he knew what the hell he was talking about. But because he had an older face and he talked about the same things that I pretty much talk about, because I just parrot him, it looked way more legit, I would say. But what else can WJG do? Right? This is the thought I had. And so like Sajam is he's like probably the most popular, actually, I mean, there is no bar. He is the most popular fighting game streamer right now. Like, it's by far. I mean, he's the only one that I think even peaks over 1,000 viewers a day. and he's kind of a pillar of the community, right? He did like casting for tournaments for years, right? He was like a lead commentator on most of the biggest fighting game platforms. And the thing that I find really interesting is the way he structures his streams. So the way he structures his streams is, okay, we're going to open it up with some talking points, things I've been thinking about, right? Things that have, maybe news, things that we've been talking about in the fighting game community, blah, 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 blah. And he interacts with chat, and he talks to the chat about things, and he talks about live streaming, or not live streaming. He talks about fighting games, and he talks about just the things that he's been thinking about. He usually has some condensed subject, right? Like defending better, or like how to interact with other fighting game fans on Twitter, or, just like weird things. And he does that for like 20 minutes. And then he'll usually kind of, depending on where that conversation goes, then he usually jumps into a game, and then he gets going. And I thought that was kind of interesting, because also like there'll be, the day after a tournament, he'll do a deep dive, right? Where he like sits down and he sits with the chat, and he analyzes the best fighting game players in the world. And he does like frame by frame analysis, and it's incredible. But there's this level of consistency to the way that he does things that I think really gets people thinking about him, right? Because I almost like I tune in to the beginning of the stream, and then if it's a match analysis stream, I'll stick around. But I don't really care to watch him play. I mean, maybe I'll watch it if I'm just not doing anything. But like, if I'm doing something, I'm not going to stick around to watch him play a fighting game. But I will absolutely stick around for match analysis, and I will usually pop in to listen to the news in the morning. Well, the late night for me. Early afternoon for him. The unfortunate truth of growing a channel and a community is that without a driving force clout, you have to become that force, which isn't easy. Yeah, exactly. And I guess what I'm asking is like an open question on, what to you signifies clout from a stream perspective, because I think it's obvious with like a Valorant stream, right? It's like you can put it right in the title. Ultra Diamond Mythic magnificent awesome player is reaching for rank number 1, right? And then you can see it in the thumbnail that like he just won a match, and then it shows the updated rank, and his JPEG is silver now, right? It's like, whoa, that's really cool. And so I think it's quite obvious when somebody in a competitive scene has clout. But how does somebody in a more creative side show that they have clout through a stream? Does that make sense? I beg to differ. This might be personal, but I didn't really watch Neophyte for Pinkney, but the idea of uni students who studies writing and analyzing games. That's interesting. That's an interesting point. But I think, once again, the clout comes from the university itself. Right? I think the thing that was interesting about Neophyte was that it was a university taking Twitch seriously. This is something that I told Pinkney all the time. It was like, the reason why all this shit is so popular is because you are somebody who has never existed in their minds, right? Nobody's ever really even thought of old people caring about video games, much less an old person who is like a professor at a university, right? Universities are where like people make fun of gamers, right? And so to have somebody at a university say, by the way, I think what you guys are doing is just amazing. Suddenly everybody's like, wait a second, it depends on the stream channel content, honestly. Not only that, but as you said, the streams and videos with Pink in them were by the numbers more. Yeah, they just were more popular. And what was really interesting to me too was that the videos that were about like more famously narrative games, right? So like Disco Elysium, I think that video has like 12 to 15,000 views now on Neophyte. Our Cyberpunk videos, like less than 100. I still go back and check every once in a while because I'm curious. Our AI dungeon, the videos where you would go on, or where we would go onto the AI dungeon website and play like a little role-playing text adventure, those were way more popular than Resident Evil 8. And I think that there's an interesting thing with that, because what it means, at least in my mind, is that the people who are searching for narrative analysis in games don't really give a shit to play the most recent big blockbuster games, right? Like I had considered, I signed up for like the $1 a month Xbox Game Pass thing just to try Halo Infinite, like the campaign. And I considered streaming it tonight, but I was like, nobody cares. Like, nobody cares what I think about Halo. Because it's not really a narrative game. You know what I mean? So, like, the way that I've started to think about this is that, and the more and more I think about this, the more I like it, is that I want to start thinking about structuring this stream like it's a school, like it's a class. I mean, I've referred to it as a class multiple times, right? I've said like, oh, you're late to class. You know what I mean? As like a joke. But I've really started to consider, like, what if it was a class? What if it was an hour-long class? I mean, is it really that different? I've also been thinking about this because I've been in that German language course, and being back in a class again after graduating from the master's degree, I've been thinking about it. Because, like, now that I've gone through what is probably my highest level of education, I'm very much like very, very, very likely not going to go back. It's been interesting to almost come back and study how classes are conducted. You know what I mean? Especially in a different language. But I've been thinking about that a lot. Where, like, if this were... I think the people who are looking at, or for this type of content, fall into one of two buckets. They're actively trying to learn something, or they already love the game that's being played and want to see other people experience it for the first time. I think you're right about that. But I guess the thing is, with that particular thing, and if I were a betting man, it's probably number 2 way more often. Yes, probably. But I think the thing is that how can you make people give a shit, right? Like, how do you make people care about what my face will look like when I first see a twist in a game story? You know what I mean? And for me, it's like I feel like I've got to do something different, because my you can't, right? I know, and so that's why I'm thinking that this is not going that's why I'm thinking the current iteration of WJG is not the right direction. That's what I mean. Because that's not something I think I'll ever be able to get somebody to care about. I don't have the consistency of streaming. I mean, I'm very consistent. I stream every single Thursday at exactly 7:00, but like, but I don't do it enough, and I don't really plan to do it much more than I'm doing it now. Maybe one more day a week, but that's okay. I'm not looking to be a huge streamer. You know, I don't want this to replace my job that I don't have. But one of the things, I just want to grow in general the community. Like, I'm interested in talking to more people about more things. And I'm wondering what exactly that looks like. In my opinion, streams and to an extent classes are quite inefficient ways of learning something. I agree. There has to be something more to it than merely being informative. I agree. Let me know if you want to stream Indisposed, partner with the server. I don't know how to partner with the server. I don't know what that means. But it sounds like a good idea. And I did plan to stream Indisposed today, yes. But the one thing that I actually wanted to talk about today, or wanted to go to today, was this. So, as I had said, let me read this before I go. I'm sure we've had this conversation many times before, but for example, I can teach you to play grapplers. I can teach you every single thing about conditioning opponents, execution, etc. But I can't make you give a shit about playing a grappler. Yeah, you can't make someone give a shit. You have to find the folks who already do. I totally agree. I just don't know how. Right. So what I'm trying to, I guess the question that I'm trying to ask is, do we think that there is an appetite for a more overtly educational content stream? Because I think I can structure it like that. Oh, I'm not giving up. Don't worry. I just enjoy streaming. Nothing's changing. Nothing's changing. Or as of now. But the thing that I'm thinking about is, the front-facing version of WJG, right? The front face of if something was very, very overtly educational, where like I effectively came here and said, this is what we're going to talk about, and this is the intellectualism. Don't sell out. I'm not selling out. I don't even know how to do it. I don't even know what it means on Twitch to sell out. I don't even know what it means. That's the thing, is that I don't know enough about any of this stuff to even know how I could do it wrong. The only thing I know is that I like talking about writing and I like talking about narrative, and I particularly play games more than I do anything else, right? I consume more game narrative than I do anything else combined by like a significant margin. I'm trying to think of the last book I read. I love it when you talk about writing. We needs it. We could talk about writing, but I'm thinking more structure. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know why I brought this up. I probably could have just said, I have a new idea and I'm going to try it. And then we could have just gone on with our day. But I wanted to gauge at least somebody's opinion on what exactly that looks like. Look at all the educational shit that Hank Green does, for example. Immensely popular. People want to learn. The problem is you're in niches of niche subjects, and the people exist, but finding them isn't easy. It's not impossible, but it's definitely, yeah, agreed. It's very hard. I don't know how to do it. Like, I feel like we get, one more person per whatever. But this is quite niche. It's like, do you want to make games? Also, very specifically, do you want to make games with really good stories? Right? Whereas I feel like a lot of people, when they maybe get into game development or they think about getting into game development, they're just really interested in making mechanics. And then the non-developers, they just want to write stories. And so they get whatever the easiest development language is or the easiest development program is, and they just do that, right? And then they get into, whatever. I think it's niche on Twitch. So stories are universal, but I think it's niche on Twitch. I don't think there's that many people who are really interested in the mechanical structure of story. You know what I mean? Like how to be better at it. I think that's quite niche. Stories are universal. Yeah, Sasquatch said it. See, exactly. So like on YouTube, there's a whole other thing, but I'm not a video editor and I don't intend to become one, right? Like I am waiting with bated breath for Joseph Anderson's new 3-hour, or I think it's a 9-hour, his new Witcher 3 video. I love Joseph Anderson. I love Mandalore Gaming. I love like Never Knows Best. I love like all of those guys. Noah Caldwell, Gervais, all of those dudes are awesome. I love those guys. It's very accurate. In my local game group, the organizer really emphasizes the fact that you shouldn't touch narrative. Yeah, probably because none of you guys are taught it, right? Because it's out of scope. Yeah. It's like, stay in your lane. Which, like, I guess is kind of good for me, because it means that I might still get a job. but like, it is kind of weird, because I think that it's actually not that hard. Mechanically. Like, I think anybody can look at the way you're supposed to structure a story and go, oh, okay, that's how it's done. You know what I mean? I don't think anybody's going to be looking at it like, what are you talking about? I think the thing is writing narrative is very simple. It's just really difficult. It's just difficult to do. It takes a lot of time. It's exhausting. It's frustrating, but it's very, very simple. It's literally some of the most depressing bullshit I've been battling these last 2 months. Years. Yeah. So, for example, here's a guy named Tynan Sylvester. I want to make sure I can hear the audio.
Ridiculous and impossible game design methods.
Dope. Okay. So, Tynan Sylvester, personal hero, game developer. What did he do? I think he might have worked on BioShock Infinite. Maybe. There's more chat. I think what it comes down to is that people differentiate a game developer and a game writer, but you can't have one without the other. The story reflects on the mechanics and vice versa. That's what makes a solid ass game. I agree. I think that, well, it's more like differentiating between a game designer and a game developer, right? So like there's the, in the weeds, like writing the code. And then there's the designer who's kind of like, there's many game designers who have no idea how to program, nor do they even know that much about mathematics or like Mark Rosewater, for example. Mark Rosewater has a degree in like English or creative writing or something. He's like a story guy. He hardly knows anything about what I think people attribute to being a game designer. Right. So the, where's your ball balloon? What was I saying? Oh, so the, I lost my train of thought. 1 second. I think it would be good if you can show how easy it would be to implement narrative in a game. After learning about it, I can safely say it's the most cost-efficient way to increase the value of your game. I agree with that. If you're writing a visual novel, you can your code is the script. Yeah. I'm pitching a narrative game in spring. They can't stop me. Cool. I'm happy. The game is the thing wherein we'll catch the conscience of the king. Yeah. So like game design. Yeah. Right. Okay. So like, I think a game designer can be a good writer. I think that they can also be a bad writer. I think that a programmer could be a good writer, or they could also be a bad writer. Right. I think that a writer just should be a good writer. Most of them are bad though. Even really good ones are really bad. And I don't know why that is, but that's not something we're going to talk about today. It's just something that is on my mind. Maybe it's just because I don't like books as much as I think I do. I don't know. But they as in people in my local game group's e-board. Well, I think that part of the thing is that it's just been considered for a really long time that narrative is just that thing that gets stapled onto a game, right? They don't realize that a game is a story. And I mean, it's kind of like when people say, well, should I focus on making a good plot or a really good character? And it's like, what are you asking that question for? They're the same thing. It's like that's like saying, should I focus on making a good plot or a good plot? Plot is character, character is plot. They're the same thing. They're the same. When one's bad, they're both bad. And they're intertwined. They're the same thing, right? Your character grows through the plot. Characterization comes from the plot. So don't say things like, oh man, this is a great place for me to do a lot of characterization. No. No, it's not. Game designers are often only good at coding, and they get successful because the industry rewards that to the detriment of everything else. Okay. How do they not get that in 20? Which hurts me on a spiritual level. It's not staples on, it's both. Yeah, exactly. Right? That's exactly what I mean. Like narrative and game are the exact same thing. No matter what kind of game you're doing. Right? And so this is something that I've thought about a lot as the years have gone on. A lot. And I've wondered because, so like, think about the games of your childhood, right? Where you would play a game and let's say a little bit after your childhood, because it's not Mario. So let's say you're playing a game and you run through the level, you shoot some bad guys, you get to the end, or you jump on some platforms, you get to the end, and then there's a little movie that you watch where they update you on what happened in the story, and then they start the next level, right? And that's the classical structure of like an adventure game. Do this to get to the cutscene that tells you what happened so that you can go to the next section. And so then I thought, okay, well, part of the thing, and then think about later on in your game life. The further on in your gaming life, you start playing games like Skyrim and what's the other game made by them? Oblivion, Fallout, or whatever, any of the Baldur's Gate games, and you start reading and reading and reading tons and tons and tons of text. And so then people start thinking, well, narrative games have to have tons of text. It's the only way to have stories in games, is to have tons of text or little movies in between each snippet of gameplay, right? Speaking of watching movies about childhood, did you see my first attempt at a YouTube video? I mentioned Spyro. No, I did not, but you should link it in the Discord. Did you not do that already? Did I miss that? Sorry. I will watch that video when the stream is over. Okay, cool. Well, sorry. I will watch that when the stream is over. I did miss it. Sorry. I am back into my German class and I have to wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. It's not that early, but it feels like it. Every game that has gripped me has been mechanically and narratively wonderful, and because they both play off of each other, I adore them. God of War, Dark Souls, Legend of Zelda. I was like, laws? But I am way more willing to deal with boring mechanics if the story is good, yeah, but not the other way around. Yeah, you will deal with boring mechanics if the story is really good, but you will not deal with good mechanics if the story is bad. Like the story is really bad. That's interesting. If the story sucks and I don't care, then that's the rub. I don't care. Yeah. You have to understand that my school is an engineering school, so there's a lot of programmers who are stubborn about their skill and try to implement branching narrative from scratch. I did the same, and it was successful to an extent, but rather painful. You got to use plugins and stuff like Yarn Spinner. It feels good not to be the one posting paragraphs. Yeah, Jake and I have been doing that for like 20 years, in various forms. 1 second. Sorry. My wife's father came in. What was I going to say? Oh, right. So, yeah, okay. So let's get back to this mechanics thing, this point I'm trying to make. So as you're getting older, you're thinking, okay, well, games that have tons and tons and tons of reading in them are narrative games, right? And then that just never changed for some reason. People just kind of stuck with that forever. Or then, it started moving into audio logs or a little bit of hybrid of movie cutscenes / dialogue trees / but yeah, the mechanics have to be absolutely astounding for me to stick with the game if the story is just bad. Yeah, right. But then there's this other thing, right? And like Disco Elysium is an amazing game. Don't get me wrong. I love that game to death. It is awesome in every capacity. I love that story so much. I think the mechanics are interesting too. But it is a very text heavy game. It's like reading a game, right? And I've thought, what exactly is a game story? God of War has a great story. The new God of War has an amazing story. It is paced super well until it gets to the middle, but that's a mechanical issue. That's not a narrative issue. But then you start to see this new thing happen, right? You start to see these new types of games, new types of narrative that emerge as I think the developers and the writers start to understand each other more. Right? As the mediums start to understand each other more, a new thing starts to become born. Where it's kind of like when you watch super old film, and like a super old film is a guy like walking out onto a stage awkwardly, and then like the bucket falls down and then it lands on somebody's head and he goes, whoa, and that's what film was. And people are like, yeah, I mean, there's a story, like a guy walks out and a bucket falls on his head, right? It's a story, kind of. But as the mediums start to intertwine and mesh more and grow with each other, now all of a sudden we have Apocalypse Now. Right? Like 40 years later. Just like, boom, Apocalypse Now. Where like film is inseparable from the medium. Right? Like the film and story are inseparable from each other in this instance. Like there's a lot of films. There's been a lot of films based on books, and there's been a lot of books based on film, and they don't always translate. And then there are the times when the film and the story are inseparable, right? And that's the thing that I've been waiting for with games for a long time. And I think Tynan and Sylvester did it. I think Tynan and Sylvester did it. I think From Software did it. I think that various other games have done it. But I think that, how they went about doing it is very interesting because it's different for various reasons and different for various games. So I wanted to talk a little bit about.
For those of you who might not be as familiar with it,
Okay, I'm kicking the dog out, so 1 second. This is ridiculous. It's like literally 1 hour a week. Literally 1 hour a week. The dog went crazy. What? Okay. So, Tynan and Sylvester made a little game called Rimworld. I feel that Hades is a shining example of what you're talking about. Yeah, I would say Hades is a really good example of that too. Part of the reason why, though, is because I think that they keep their narrative really, really, really short and snippety. Because one of the things that really drives me crazy about a lot of video game narrative is that it's like a slog. It's just a slog to get through. Some games can do it, but they have to have a really, really good writer on staff that can make the prose flow, you know, and not feel kind of ham-hockish. But there's this thing where it's like you can kill your pacing really quickly, and you not only kill the pacing for your game, but the story. Well, not only for your story, but for the game as well. And so I think part of the reason why Hades does such a good job is because of that. It's only an hour. I hope there will be time for Indisposed. If what's only an hour? Oh, we're not watching this whole stream. There's just, or not stream, this GDC talk. What time are we at? 40 minutes? Fuck, we might not even be able to get to this. God damn it, this is the second stream where I just got like ranty and forgot what I was doing.
I just want to run the trailer and tell you a little bit about it.
The narrative payoff when you finish a run in Hades is all I needed to beat it. Like 40 times from scratch. Okay. So there's one particular thing that I wanted to talk about with this thing in particular. With Rimworld in particular. And I think it's one of the most genius things I've heard from a game maker. Hey, a good streamer can fill the air. I wouldn't mind, but I'm always available, and I just wanted to see the response. I mean, I'm fine with playing it. I wanted to get to one thing today and this was part of the discussion that I wanted to have at the beginning of the stream, which is how am I going to structure these? Am I going to structure them like, let's talk about something writing and game related at the same time? Then let's do something that like maybe play a short part of a game or watch a video of a gameplay or watch one of these or something. And then toward the end of the stream, we play somebody else's game or we take a recommendation or, you know, whatever. So that's kind of that's what I was asking. That's why I was asking about structure earlier. But anyway, I want to make sure I'm at the right spot.
Is how it handles failure. To have tension, I think a game has to threaten the player with some sort of consequence. That's what's in the balance.
Okay. All right. So tension is one of the driving forces of narrative, right? It's the center of conflict. It is the center of all things in narrative. Whether it's a story about saving the world or a quiet family story about dealing with, I don't know, the child has cancer or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's just something, at the center of every story, there's going to be some kind of conflict. Right. And the conflict was what breeds the tension, which carries the narrative from beginning to end. So Tynan Sylvester thinks in his game, Rimworld, how do I imbue this in a game in a non-obvious way? And I think that his particular approach to this was genius.
Has to threaten the player with some sort of consequence. That's what's in the balance. In classic games, this is the game is over or you failed to skill test. And this makes sense because these games are all about testing skill. Once you've failed the skill test, the question is answered. The test is done. There's nothing else to find out. Stories are different. In a story, attention is maintained by threatening things that the characters care about, not by threatening to end the story. So in Rimworld, when things go wrong, they're designed to go wrong such that the...
Fuck, really? You're totally right.
Play story. So in Rimworld...
Okay. So this is where the vid is really quiet. Okay. Okay, I'll definitely mute my mic when it comes time. But this is a really interesting graphic that I want to talk about. I also got to move my face. There we go. Okay, muting microphone.
Rimworld, when things go wrong, they're designed to go wrong such that the player loses some story element that they care about, like a pet or a loved one. But the game isn't ended. We just keep going. We play it out. And this works because the player is invested in these things. In StarCraft, you don't really care about any one of your Marines, right? There's nothing to make you care about them, except insofar as they can help you win. All you really want is victory. But in Rimworld, you care about your characters because you've gotten to know them. And losing even a character who might be kind of useless in terms of victory can still be a little bit heart-wrenching. And losing things is good story. Losing things is emotional. It's powerful. It sets up the stakes for later on. You remember Psycho, the movie. It starts out with the woman. She goes out to the hotel. She's looking for something. And she gets stabbed to death like a third of the way through the movie. And you all think that she's the protagonist. But the story doesn't end. It just goes on with other characters. And the fact that she got stabbed and killed raises the stakes later on. And that's how Rimworld handles failure. So here are some examples specifically, like of game mechanics. When the raiders win a battle, they don't just keep going relentlessly and massacre everyone in the base after they've broken your defenses. They used to do this, but in later versions, we discovered that if the raiders become satisfied with kidnapping somebody or stealing some of your stuff and leaving, they leave you to recover. You can rebuild, and you know the stakes next time they're coming after you. Even if your whole base burns down, you can rebuild a new one right next to the ruins, or in the ruins. If your colony is in a poor state, your characters get low expectations mood bonuses so they can continue to function at a lower wealth level without the creature comforts of a rich base. And that lets you have some space to recover without everyone just falling apart. And when things go really bad, the player can even flee their base in a caravan and go somewhere else entirely. And we've just emergently created that old Western story trope where the protagonist flees their village that's burning behind them with their family dead or enslaved, looking to get revenge or start a new life or whatever goal they might choose. It's the same as when Luke's parents got roasted at the start of A New Hope. I call this elastic failure, because instead of failure being a brick wall that you run into and shatter on, it's something that stretches. The failure state, you enter a deeper and deeper failure state. And those failure states tend to be very dramatic and very storyful, because it's in the process of failure and the process of perhaps recovering from that, that if we can stretch that out, that produces those dramatic situations. Another example of applying the story generator concept.
Okay, so he goes on to talk about some very interesting... I would just highly recommend everybody go watch this entire GDC talk, because it's just, from beginning to end, it's brilliant. But the thing that I wanted to touch on particularly there was that the concept of elastic failure, right? Corvidash says, I love that. Failure's becoming a part of a good story instead of a reason to load a quick save. Exactly, right? That's the whole point. Because when you're reading a novel, things are going wrong all the time, right? They're going wrong constantly. They get to the new base, but the rebel or the Imperium has found them there, so they flee and they go to another base, and the failures are a constant in a narrative. And games, on the whole, have not really introduced this idea very often. It's more often that it's when you die, you go back to the previous point so that you can continue. And then they just kind of jam the failure state into a non-interactable moment. Like a cutscene where it's like you go all the way to the inside the base, you kill every single guy, you get all the way up to the computer, you hit E on it so that you can destroy the base. And then when you hit E, a cutscene starts, and then a guy grabs you and throws you off the computer, and then you lose your gun, and a failure state's introduced. Narrative failure is a non-Newtonian fluid. My brain is imploding. But that's what Rimworld is it's just a constant stream of failure states that you recover from, and when you're recovering from that failure, you're developing bonds with your characters, right? You start a Rimworld run on average with 3 colonists. The 3 colonists have various things that they're good at and various things that they're bad at. All sorts of things go wrong in this beginning. Everything goes wrong constantly. And as you develop these relationships, you start to develop a sense of camaraderie and even like a weird form of love. You know what I mean? Like you would love a character in a book. And it all comes from the various things that they did in the development of Rimworld. But in particular, my favorite one is the elastic failure. So many stories for me have come from the elastic failure in that game, where like I had a colonist of 3 people. 2 of them refused to fight. We got raided. The 2 people who refused to fight died. The one who didn't refuse to fight, she kept fighting and fighting and tried. She tried to save her 2 companions. They both died. She was dying from blood loss. She collapsed, right? And then the game, knowing that I've entered a failure state, threw in this like weird character who just kind of came out of the trees and helped my people, right? He rescued them. And 2 of them, or 1 of them, died on the like in bed, right? They died of sepsis or whatever they die of, but he was able to nurse 2 of them back to life. And it's these elastic failure states that generate narrative in such an amazing way that is inaccessible in a novel. Because a novel, by its nature, is contrived, whereas in a game, you don't have to have it be contrived. I can feel the D&D rant currently building itself in my brain. You cannot have a good story without failure. If you constantly succeed, it can get boring. Not obviously. Yeah, right. Not always obviously. Yeah. What a great point to show. I need to watch that video. It's amazing, dude. I love that. I love that GDC talk. It's my favorite one so far. Siri. Okay. So I think we'll have to continue this. I think maybe we'll just do this next week, because going through this whole GDC talk, actually, I feel like is super valuable. I've learned a lot from this, and I don't even really make games, right? Like, it's taken me days to put together these little sprites. And, like, they're funny. You know, they got some... He's twerking. He's begging. But, like... You know what I mean? It's not Rimworld. Okay. So I agree. This one is up there. Yeah, it's right up there. I would say like that one, Yoko Taro's. I really loved that one. I think you sent it to me, 2 links. The one about the maybe the guy he talks about game design. And like, he opens his talk with this really amazing analogy of what Gone Home is as a game, where it's basically just like 4 stacks of cards, and like you like the game of Gone Home is lift up a card until you find the right one, and then you can go to the next pile of cards, right? Like that's the game of Gone Home. That's an amazing God. That's such a good GDC. I think the resources channel can only be posted in by admins. Oh, really? Oh, well, maybe we should fix that. Maybe we should change that. Okay. I'm pretty sure I have it already, but just, I already paid for this. No, thanks. That's true. Jake is an admin. Yeah, sorry, I'm not paying for it. Partially because I don't want to give out my credit card information, and partially because I don't have any money. Okay. 1 second. I'm going to let the dog back into the room. Come. Doggo is unchained. It's true. I don't want to show my credit card numbers. Okay. So I think this is what we'll do next week. We're going to come back, and I'm not going to go on a rant at the beginning of the stream. And we're just going to actually watch the GDC talk, and we're going to talk about it. Okay, start. Corvid. What? Come play with me. Do you want mom to starve to death? What? No. Then finish up. Fine. Hey, Corbin. What's up? Do you believe in monsters? No. No, do you? Why not? They're made up to scare little kids. Like us? Like you. I'm 7. What's that like? It's a lot of responsibility. Well, I have responsibilities when I'm 7. Only if you do your diligence now. It's a big word for a 7-year-old. I'm gonna lurk, but I'm still here. Cool. Sounds good. Huh? The dishes. Okay. After I finish washing washing the diligence, can we have ice cream? Only if mom says they're clean enough. I'll make them ultra clean. Don't brag. Pride goes before the fall. This is not a normal 7-year-old. Sorry, I'll wash out my mouth with soap. Please don't. Outside. Troy and Corbin eat popsicles, which melt in the midday sun. Corbin? Yeah? Are popsicles ice cream? Do they have ice in them? Yeah, I think. Do they have cream in them? Sometimes. There's your answer. So is pizza ice cream? Yes. Yes, I suppose that technically it is. You gotta do dishes yourself. You 6-year-olds don't understand the struggle of 7-year-old adults. It's true. So why doesn't it come on a stick? Do drumsticks come on a stick? No, they come in a cone. There's your answer. For a second time. Your ice cream is melting. Oh. Troy wipes himself. The ice cream wrapper falls. Don't use your shirt to wipe yourself. Mom will get mad. Enter man. He watches from nearby. Do you have any napkins on you? What do I look like? A restaurant? Run home and get a towel. What about my ice cream? You're not finished yet. I had to wipe my hands. Forget it. I'll get you a towel. Where's your wrapper anyway? I think I dropped it down the drain. Well, never mind it then. A towel's better anyway. Exit Corbin. It's a play. This is a play. Are you going to pick up that wrapper? Huh? You dropped a wrapper down the drain. Do you intend to pick it up? I mean, it's gone now, isn't it? Not quite. The drain is pretty shallow. You could fish it out. I don't want germs. Do you think Mother Nature wants your germs? My mom's not home right now. Do you believe she'd be okay with this? With what? You ought to listen to your mother. She won't be around forever. You mean Mother Nature? Enter Corbin with towel. He eyes the man. Eyeing man. Here's your towel, Troy. Are you this boy's older brother? That I am. Who wants to know? Are you okay with littering our neighborhood with plastic? Who are you again? I think this man wants to help Mom. I'm just looking out. For what exactly? For the well-being of the planet? Who do you work for then? Who? Yes, who? Whom do I work for? That's what I just said. I work for a company. I work for Whom company? I see. Well, Mother does not like us talking to strange men. Do you even believe in monsters? What? Do you believe in dumpsters? Using dumpsters? Sometimes, yeah. Beware the one who dwells inside a dumpster. What the heck? Don't be a litter bug. You will become all which you leave behind. Exit man. That guy was weird. We're going home. But what about the rapper? Leave it. We're going home. But he said it was bad. Is he your dad? I hope not. Then why do you care about what he believes? But he said he works for a company. What company? This company? I don't know. Get going, Troy. Fine, we're going. Troy glances at the rapper, grated out of reach, just one last time. Night. Corbin is in his bedroom, gaming. Corbin! Yeah, Mom? Will you please take out the trash, dear? Can't Troy do it? I'm sort of busy. That reminds me, where's your brother? I don't know, in his room, I guess. Could you check on him? Yeah, okay, fine. Go to Troy's bedroom. Troy is nowhere to be found. Soda can and snack bags litter the floor. What a slob. Go to Mother's bedroom. He's not in his room. That's strange. He must be playing. He must be playing on the jungle gym. He shouldn't be out this late. Fine, I'll go find him. Okay, I just want you to stay safe, Mr. 7-year-old. I will. And do take out the trash. Go to kitchen. Open cupboard under sink. Withdraw trash bag. Withdraw trash can. Remove trash from trash can. Exit kitchen. Outside. The night is brisk. Go to street. Troy's nowhere to be seen. Call out. Troy? Exit street. Go to patio. Open trash can. Deposit trash bag. Exit patio. Go to street. It's amazing to me, and this is always something that's going to amaze me. Just verbing those makes them so much better. I don't know why. It just makes the writing so much snappier and nicer. I noticed that in Game Deck too, where none of my choices were like ethereal, you know what I mean? It wasn't like in Mass Effect where it's like, do you choose the blue or the red? And it doesn't hide any information. It's just like verb. Open trash can. Deposit trash. And it always makes it better. My imagination fills everything in anyway. In the moonlight, the silhouette of a strange figure looms. I think that there could be some more details though. Just a few. Just a couple. Call out. Hello? The figure does not answer. Deposit trash can. As Corbett deposits the trash can, the figure does not move. Examine figure. The figure seems at first to be a man from the neighborhood, but for the unrecognizably thin, jagged arms, the rounded torso dressed in tattered threads, and what appears to be a cardboard box covering its head. That's a great detail. It's great detail. It does not move, perhaps because its legs are... The cardboard box, by the way, is a great example of an uninventable detail. So it's something that just lends a story credence by the fact that it can't not be true. You know what I mean? It's uninventable. It's so weird. It does not move, perhaps because its legs are crooked and its feet visibly heavy, shaped as though they were milk jugs filled with concrete. Despite these deformities, the silhouette appears quite tall to behold. Exit street. Go home. Go to kitchen. Close cupboard under sink. Open cupboard under sink. Withdraw trash can. Jesus Christ. The sound. That was awesome, by the way. Troy? Mommy! Go to Mother's bedroom. Corbin's mother appears to be tucked in, rolled up in a blanket. Cry out. Mom, get up. Where's Troy? We have to go. Reach out. I'm scared now. Beneath the covers, Corbin discovers naught but crumpled cans, discarded bottles, weathered sheets of paper, and a swarm of other garbage drenched in blood. Behind him, Corbin hears the sounds of plastic cracking as the floorboards creak. A chill then tumbles down his spine, a breath so putrid that it must have festered in the urine of 1,000 vagrants. Sorry. Driving weekly down the weekly route, Carl, the collector, notices a solitary, wayward trash can lying face down on the sidewalk with its mouth to the gutter. Seriously? Stop the vehicle. Carl climbs out of the trash collection truck. He approaches the wayward can. Prop up trash can. Not while it's still open. Shut lid. Huh? What's this? He notices a boy's shoe, size 4, lying down in the gutter. Oh damn, the sudden image is spooky. Yeah. Yeah, that was actually quite brilliant, I would say, to have no imagery whatsoever for like the first however long, 10, 15 minutes of the game, and then suddenly there's like a really grisly image. I'm guessing it's the cadence. Effective verbing packs more information, so the sentence takes less for you to parse. Agreed. Yeah, definitely. Parents ought to watch their kids. Play shoe and can. I better prop it up first. We don't want a repeat of the cat incident. Another uninventable detail. At least the cat's okay. Prop up trash can. How oddly light for a suburban trash can. Play shoe and can. Carl lifts the lid. What the? Inside the trash can is full of nothing but plastic ice cream wrappers. Weirdos. Drive on. That was a cool little horror story. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, it's just effective, right? It's snappy, it's smart, but it didn't rush through the beginning, which I think actually was really good. It let us get to know the two brothers, right? And they have a very, very, very normal brotherly, brothership, whatever the word is for it, kinship. Where the older brother, you learn a lot about them through their dialogue, right? Where like the fraternity, the older son, the older kid, it's clear by the way he acts that their dad is not in the picture, right? And then it becomes quickly apparent when they like basically outright say it. But I would say that it's apparent beforehand, which is good. That's a good thing, because it means that I got to figure something out in the story, which is something you want. You want people to put that shit together. You don't want them to be in limbo going, do they have a dad or do they not have a dad? Because it's pretty obvious that they don't have a dad. And that's cool. That's just a good thing to do. Not that they don't have a dad, but it's just a good thing to force people to make educated guesses based on the information that they're receiving, because then that's how they play the story. So yeah, that was solid. The brothers being introduced was solid. I felt like I got a sense for how they lived, where they lived, and their day-to-day lives very economically. And I mean that in a good way. And yeah, their voices worked, for both of them. I thought the 7-year-old his vocabulary was a little too strong for a 7-year-old, but, I don't think that that's an irrecoverable thing. It's like a one-liner in dialogue. You can just say, you saw that on Discovery, didn't you? You don't have to do it, but this is where other visuals can come into play too, right? Where like, if you had said, Troy stands in the front yard wearing a t-shirt that says Discovery Channel, then suddenly all of his words, all of his like high vocabulary is justified, and we don't question it anymore. I think kids love to use big words without knowing what they mean. Well, and this is actually something that I thought was kind of interesting in the narrative, which is that words often were replacing each other, right? Like monsters and manners, or whatever it was. I can't remember. Monsters and something else. Mothers, maybe. And I thought that dumpsters. I thought it was interesting that that words were replacing each other, and that words were getting mixed up a lot. I was wondering what the idea behind that was. Because it felt very deliberate, but I wasn't able to put together what the deal was. Also, I wasn't really scene tracking. I love this game. Very solid, and I'm gonna steal the way you present that image. The like really like forceful kind of thing. I really liked the sensory deprivation. The sensory deprivation really made that reveal strong. It captures the feeling of being a kid and not knowing exactly what's happening. The replacement of words. Like inspiration from limitation. Yeah, Absolutely. Restrictions and limitations are good. Ask poets have been saying it for years. Like thousands. Thousands of them. Until recently. And now poetry is like, just write something short. What was I going to say? Yeah, it's the thematics are interesting too, because it's like, I mean, maybe it's because I didn't get the right playthrough, maybe I didn't go down the right paths, maybe I didn't find the right information, but it wasn't clear to me who exactly killed them. Like, I understand that it was very, very likely to be the weirdo dude who was chastising them for dropping the plastic in the gutter, right? Like that seems self-evident that he was the murderer, but I don't know who he is. There wasn't much of a reveal, and I don't necessarily think that needs to be the case. It's ambiguous, yeah. I don't think that's necessarily like must be the case, because I thought that the motivations for the killing were, I mean, they're not justified, nor do they even make a ton of sense, but they are followable. You know what I mean? Like, he's the recycler killer. You know what I mean? Like, he's killing kids, or he's killing people who litter. And that's a followable reason. Unlike the most recent Halo game I'm playing, where I honestly have no idea why. I don't know why the antagonists are doing what they're doing. I don't understand that. I don't understand what their motivation is. So the motivation for killing the children was followable. This was for a jam by Blaine, wherein all of the submissions were to be monster stories to scare children out of littering. Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. So this was like a monster origin story type thing, like a fairy tale of like, here's why you shouldn't litter, because the cardboard box man comes and kills you. That's interesting, because now that means that you're entering into the realm of fairy tale. And some other things make sense. Like, yeah, Blaine gave us the theme and we did our best, our beast. Because, German fairy tale. Because the fairy tales often can operate outside of like even normal, even fictional norms, right? Like, fairy tales don't have to have any semblance of veracity to them. Like, you don't even need a mother in the story. I think that there's a good payoff for it, because I think it's tied to the character, or the older brother. I forget his name. Corbin, but like the payoff of it would have been cool if the mother had done something too, like, or if there had been some attention to a detail about the mother, right? Where like even something like, did you play it back when we released it? Oh, you're not asking me. But some attention to a detail about the mother could have been really interesting, where like when they first dropped the wrapper into the gutter, and then Corbin, or the younger brother, or no, the older brother says you should get it, and then the younger brother says, well, mom didn't get it when she dropped the, I mean, that's not a good example, but like something like that to get us thinking that the mom is also at fault here. Because then it just kind of doubles up the payoff for the cardboard box man killer. Cardboard box head. But yeah, that was a fun little game. I love games that don't overstay their welcome. I'm starting to really love like 10-minute to 6 5 4 2-hour games. I'm starting to really, really, really like it. The part with the mom gives me step on a crack, break your mother's back. Yeah, like your bad actions will impact innocence around you as well. Yeah, that's true. Totally. I didn't play this, which is weird. Is this for the last jam, and did it have a Mac build? It wasn't for a WJG jam. Short games are the best. I'm really starting to love them, especially short narrative games. Maybe it's just because I do this stream and I play them a lot more now, but like Inscription is it's not a short game. Like that game took me I think 12 hours to beat, but it was so on the upper end of quality and game narrative and polish and everything that like I just loved that game, and I loved that it wasn't longer. I loved that it ended when it was supposed to. And I've said that before. The narrative ends when it's supposed to. It doesn't outstay its welcome, nor does it leave before it's been asked to, before it's been dismissed. You know? The game ends exactly when the story ends, and the story ends exactly when it's supposed to. And that for me is just great. No padding, no extra shit, no side bullshit. You know, I'm really starting to like that stuff again. Titan Souls takes 2 to 3 hours to beat, low on the text-based narrative, but goddamn does it make you feel every moment. Yeah, that's the one where you die in one hit, right? Isn't it kind of like a top-down 2D side or 2D top-down Dark Souls? Can't wait for short video games to be talked about in English classes. Me too. That's what I want. That's kind of what I want WJG to be. I want it to be like the first game English class that you go to, because that's the thing that YouTube doesn't do. YouTube, it's like you go to YouTube and you watch Joseph Anderson's latest video, and don't get me wrong, I'm waiting to like bated breath. I cannot wait for Joseph Anderson's new video. I'm so excited for it. I'm so excited. But it's different. It doesn't feel like a classroom. And I think I just really like being in a classroom. I like the live aspect of it. I like interacting with the teacher. I like when the teacher poses a question to the students, and I like when the students have to think about the answer, and then they propose, and then you have a discussion, and you know, like the things that make a classroom great is what I think Twitch has not really, the world of Twitch has not really tried to go into. You know, there's this sort of like hierarchical, like, well, you're in my stream and it's my, you know, it's my stream and I say the things. And like, I don't think that there's a particularly strong classroom vibe on Twitch when it could have a really strong classroom vibe. The difference is that you can have YouTube without Twitch. You can't have Twitch without YouTube. Definitely. Yeah. Twitch is for watching. What? No, that's not what Twitch is for. I'm not even going to read it. That's not what Twitch is for. I watch Twitch to watch people play fighting games, mostly. We'd have to make it like a Zoom call to get close to a classroom. Maybe. I mean, I think one of the things that could be done is, like, if people wanted to join the call, then what we could do is I could go into a chat in the Discord. It's a bizarre culture, hundreds of years. Sounds terrible. Sounds like something I don't want to be even 25 feet or even 25,000 feet near. Misspoke earlier. So one of the things I could maybe do is sit down. I jump into like a chat channel, like a voice chat channel, and then we could do something kind of like that. But I think that I do a relatively decent job of acknowledging everybody that's talking. And I think that we can replicate something like a classroom so long as I actually come up with lesson plans. You know what I mean? Like, this was kind of a failed lesson plan where I wanted to do this, but I also wasn't sure if I was going to do Bloodborne today or if I was going to do Tynan, if I was going to do Rimworld chat today. So Twitch and Discord have spaces now too that are like large Zoom calls with smaller group of speakers. There's something we can do. I'll keep working on the idea and figure it out. But I recall seeing a stream about writing shaders for Unity, and it was somewhat like what you're talking about. Okay. Yeah, like, because there's an educational category on Twitch, but a lot of the time it's just like people, it's usually used by Twitch streamers who are a little bit more articulate in the way that they describe the things that they're doing in a game. Right, they're like, we have to take B, and the reason why we have to take B, by the way, chat, is because they're rotating on A. So, you know, and like the theory behind taking B at this particular juncture, like that's typically what I've seen associated with educational. And while that is educational, it's not kind of the education that I'm talking about. I'm talking about, like, I would love to talk about, and we will talk about it soon, but I would love to talk about how, like, the ways in which Bloodborne draws inspiration from H.P. Lovecraft, because, like, literarily, because I can trace it. I can track where he's, you know, where From Software is pulling from H.P. Lovecraft, right? Like, stuff like the insight. The insight counter is straight out of Lovecraft. It's just a gamified version of it. Also, there's some competitive programming streams where people bring problems there to be analyzed. It's not too popular. Yeah. During WoW Psycho. I'm not even going to fit. I don't know what the hell you're saying. Sorry. It sounds like you're describing an educational video format podcast type thing. Yeah, but live. Yes, but live. It's like a classroom. Dylan is best professor. Oh, okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's like a classroom. Like, if you were to go to college and tell your professor, by the way, every day or every time I come to class, I'm going to set up a microphone and I'm going to record everything that happened in class. It would sound a lot like this, I think. Right. But anyway, I am over time, so I'm going to actually get up on out of here and go about the rest of my evening because I have to wake up early to go to school tomorrow. Yeah, a lot of them are done live. Yeah. So, thanks for sticking around and dealing with my unorganizedness today. And then those VODs are on and audio are uploaded for posterity. Yeah, right, exactly. It's great that you're wanting to consider the interactive aspect that facilitates a deeper understanding for students. That's just what that's what I think I need to do. This is more interactive than some classes I paid for. Exactly. That's what I want. That's what I want this to do. I think. I'm pretty sure this is where I want to go with this. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye and good luck, or good night and good luck. Yeah, that's the line.